Hi, my name is Lindy Wafula. I am a politician and an advocate for women in political leadership in Kenya. Allow me to share with you my story, my experience in running for elective office, and the experience of many women that I've been able to work with as we all seek elective office. In 2010, I ran for the first time for the Member of Parliament for Makadara, which is a small but very populated constituency in Nairobi. I was inspired to run for this elective office in 2010 by a woman in rural Kenya at a time when I was working with women, helping them to have access to education, healthcare, enterprise development, and leadership skills. I will never forget that very moment when we were sitting in a circle and one woman from a small village in south coast of Mombasa, a place called Lungalunga, Mama Christina is her name. She stood up so boldly, but yet so frightened, because she didn't know the answer to this very personal problem that she was going through. Mama Christina said to me, "Lindy, what will happen to us when our husbands sleep with our daughters? And when we ask them about this, they beat us up and tell us not to say anything to anyone." That is the situation that goes unheard or unreported in many households in Kenya. I know for sure that it is a true story because I have worked with so many women in rural villages and in the major towns of Kenya, and I have heard similar stories. When Mama Christina said this to me, I looked at myself and I imagined, what did she see in me? What did she expect of me? And at that particular moment, I knew that I'd come into contact with my next assignment, to run for office and to be a voice for Mama Christina and many women and girls who suffer violence in their homes and yet they don't know who to talk to. I knew for sure that this is not going to be a problem that will be solved by sitting in a small village council with the elders and asking for the husband to Mama Christina to be brought to the front so that he can explain the action that he had taken. I knew for sure that it is going to take legislation to protect the rights and the interests of women. And that is why I saw there was no any other place other than being in Parliament to formulate legislation and to make policies that will protect the interests of women. So that is how my journey started in 2010. Has it been easy? Not at all. Am I giving up? Not yet. It has not been easy because women who are running for office face lots of challenges. In 2010, like many women who dare to run for elective office, I did not know where to start or how to start. I didn't have any training, any education. I didn't know how to walk through the corridors of power in my political party for making sure that I go through the primaries and even further to the main election. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have any finances at all. If anything, I had one small green car that I always say every time that I'm running for, speaking to women who are running for office, you know, I started from very far, but looking at my opponents who are men, with all the money that they had to flash around to buy votes, with all the big cars that they would use, the extensive media coverage that they would get, I felt so intimidated. But in my spirit, I said, I will go all the way. I will not give up. I didn't make it in 2010, and I ran again in 2013. This time, I had said, with the experience that I got in 2010, teaching myself how to speak to crowds, how to let the community know the reason why I'm running to represent them is not because of the money, but it is because I want to be a role model. It's because I want to speak and be a voice for the women, to be a voice of reason. It is because I want to make a difference in making legislation that will protect the interests and the needs of women and girls. I said I will not go alone. I promised myself that as I climb up, I will make sure that I pull with me any woman, young and old, who is willing to dare to put herself on the front line and seek elective office. It is difficult, it is challenging, but I know that there are women out there in Kenya who have endured lots of ridicule. They have lost their savings. They have put themselves on the front lines where there's so much violence, verbal violence, physical violence. Women who have not even been able to return to their homes at times because they have been out in the campaigns and have been threatened because they look like they will win an election. I have looked at women who have dared to run for office, have great ideas, but yet they cannot be able to survive the primaries just because they don't have the money to pay the fees to their political parties. I have seen women who have struggled to prepare their media campaigns in their own small ways, yet trying to make a statement. I know that there are women who have what it takes to be great political leaders in Kenya. And that is why, together with other women, in 2013, we decided to run this particular program called the Leading Ladies Circles and the Leading Ladies Caravan, encouraging one another, becoming peer mentors to one another, and saying that the failure of one of us can be a lesson to another, that we can campaign together as women, regardless of which political parties we are coming from. Our need first is to make sure that our numbers increase in the House of Legislation. And if we can do this, then we can pursue the interests of women, we can strengthen the voices of women at the grassroots, and we can for sure see development coming down, trickling down to the majority of women who are poor and who go through a lot of violence in their own homes. The biggest challenge, however, still remains resources, money, financing a campaign. How can women get money to finance their campaigns when there is no organization around the world that is willing to invest money into the hands of women? We can only help one another as women. We can put our resources together. We can contribute like we do to the businesses of women who are starting up small enterprises. Let's look at running for office as an investment that we are doing for the nation and for the generations of women around the world. We need to start taking a step and saying that we need to invest in political leadership. Because for sure, power is not going to be given to us on a silver platter. No, the men who are in power are not going to give to us power on a silver platter. We have got to fight. We have got to fight not using any weaponry. We have got to fight using our ideals and using our power to getting work done. We need more women in political leadership. Today I call on to the women all around the world as we are celebrating International Women's Day on the 8th of March 2014. Let us put our heads together, our minds together, knowing that we only have a few months to 2015, and yet we have not achieved MDG number 3, which in part states that we should promote gender equality and empowerment of women, and one of the indicators should see women being in political office. We need more women in parliament. And as I close, allow me to ask you this rhetoric question that I ask every other day. What would Africa be like if the continent had 54 female presidents? Would we still see war in South Sudan? Will we see conflict in the Central African Republic? Will we see the disease that has ravaged the continent, the hunger and famine that is killing women and children, child mortality and maternal mortality that is taking away generations? Will we see the corruption that is so rife in Africa? Or will we see a change? We will never know until we elect women into political office. I take it as a challenge for myself to dare to run again for elective office in 2017 in the coming general elections in Kenya. And I call other women in Kenya to stand up, to rise up and say we can do it together. And I call on all our sisters from around the world, join us, help us, fundraise with us, pray with us, strengthen us, encourage us. And I know that as we continue to do this, one village at a time, one county at a time, one country at a time, one day the world will see the power of women. Thank you, and God bless you.